I stepped up to this point and I saw a fellow by the name of Paul Davis standing here. He was the news director for the local radio station. Very young man, probably about 22 years old. And he was having difficulty getting in. I told Wolf, I said, you know, he does work for the radio station. You better let him in. I stepped up to this point, went through the door, and saw Bill Devon standing right there. And Bill Devon at this point was the officer in charge on the scene. Bill said to me, Larry, for Christ's sake, let's get moving. We've got to get this in and out and all that. There was another uniformed officer in here. I don't really remember much about him because once I got to this point, I went into the photo mode. And I didn't pay much attention to anyone else. I did see what I thought was one body here, and I started to move forward, and I went down this way. And got to about here. And that's when I found the body of the young woman. And she was laying almost parallel to the walls. Where these stacks of clay are, I had room to get around her. So the first thing I did was I took 4 pictures in all quarters around her. And then I moved over to here, right over about here. And this was where the body of Mr. Tweed was. And it appeared to me that the way he was, he had been trying to defend himself, and he fell something like this. He was very bloody. A lot of stab wounds to him. And here there was a much more noticeable blood presence here. And I can remember looking around and thinking what a rat's nest and a warren this was of old furniture and old junk. Now, my understanding was Mr. Tweed owned rental property, and I think this would have been stuff they would abandon and left. And at this point, I do believe, as the photographer on the scene, I was about done, and I was wandering around. And this wall, on the other side of this wall, was an old office. And I can remember I ended up in there, and I looked, and there was an old roll-top desk there with a chair sitting next to it. And it was, I mean, it was so mind-boggling. I looked down, and on this chair was a slice of white bread here, another slice of white bread with bologna. I'm thinking he was getting ready to put it together to make the sandwich.
We're now standing at the man door area on the outside of the office of Mr. Tweed. We believe that Mr. Tweed had exited that doorway. We believe that the suspect or suspects had exited out towards the doorway, which would be the garage doors now, upon leaving the building. And then upon exiting the building, it is our suspicion that the perpetrator or perpetrators exited from the man door that once was here in the building, and they either exited to the left or to the right.